When the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" That is a very common question that all people either ask or want to know wherever they are. Who is the greatest person here? We find that in the world, we find it in politics. Everybody's competing to be a minister or a chief minister or a prime minister or whatever it is, always wanting to go to the top. Who is the greatest in every sphere? Whether it's the military or politics or businessmen, they want to be the richest businessmen in the world. Always there is a competition to be the greatest. And unfortunately, in almost every Christian church, it is the same. There are people who desire to be the greatest, and despite all that we have preached in CFC, I find that in many people in CFC to be known as important, longing to become elders. I've often said first qualification to be an elder is you have no desire to be an elder. And when they're removed from eldership, they're offended, and many just leave. It's all because of this innate desire to be the greatest. And even people who pretend that they're not offended when they're removed from eldership, inside the desire is still there to be the greatest. Now to be known as the greatest person who's not offended. This desire to be the greatest in some way or the other is there in us, and unless it is crucified, it will hinder our spiritual growth. If we are not seeking to be greatest in position, then we want to be known as the greatest to humble ourselves, or the greatest in humility, or the greatest. It's always this desire to be the greatest. Whatever is valued in a church, if it is speaking in tongues that's valued in a church, then they want to be known as the greatest in speaking in tongues. If it is preaching, then the greatest in preaching. If it is humility, then they want to be known as the greatest in humility. Whatever it is. But who is the greatest is a question that comes in the hearts of all children of Adam. And these different examples I gave you are the very subtle ways in which it can come to anybody sitting here if you're not watchful. And pride is most dangerous. Pride is most dangerous when it wears the garments of humility. Remember that. When it wears the garments of pride, it's easily observable by everybody. Like in a politician or a businessman, the arrogance. But when pride is clothed in humility, the garments of humility, that is the danger that many in CFC face. And that's why Jesus said, you got to learn from a little child. Unless you are converted and become like children, you shall not enter the kingdom of heaven. And what do we see about, as he said in verse 4, whoever then humbles himself, not just humbles himself, but humbles himself as this child, it means a little baby, he is the greatest in God's kingdom. So what is the main characteristic in a little child? It's humility. It is a complete lack of pretending. It's not pretending to be humble. I've seen many brothers and sisters in CFC who pretend to be humble. That's arrogance and pride. Most people can't detect it, but I can see through it straight away. And God can see through it much more. The thing about a child is, remember, it's not just humble. It does not pretend to be humble. Because you can get a reputation for pretending to be humble, pretending not to be offended. It's all pride, arrogance. So it's not easy to be like a child, I'll tell you that.